Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for coming. And I hope you will enjoy this first event of the International Education Week. I really encourage you to attend all the following events that we are having this week. Tomorrow we have a workshop with OGS and the Wasserman Career Center for international students. And on Friday, we have also the International Alumni Panel. So thank you also to the faculty who accepted our invitation for today. And I hope you will enjoy this panel and feel free to ask as many questions as you want. And I leave to my two international students, Sakshi and Yerei.
So I think we should begin the panel now. Okay, before we begin the panel, I'm Sakshi. I'm a second year student in MPH, and I'm pursuing my health policy and management degree from here. And I'm really excited to host this with Yerei so that I get my questions answered, and hopefully all of you get questions answered. And I hope at the end, when we open the Q&A section, you take this opportunity to ask as many questions as you want. And it's a really informal setting, and I hope you guys gain the information that you want. Okay. So the first question that we have, and I think one question and then we can go along the panel and everyone can answer, is so for each one of the faculty members, can you briefly introduce yourself, including your educational background, country of your origin, and tell us about your journey to NYU? And what is your current job, and when did you start this position?
Me first? Okay. So first, thanks very much for the invitation. It's a pleasure to be here. And actually, I think I enjoyed very much the questions, and to think about the questions was really a very good exercise for me to look to my background. So I'm Claudia Passos. I did first a training in clinical psychology. I'm a psychologist. I did a MA and a PhD in public health. And then gradually I transitioned into philosophy. So I got a second PhD in philosophy. I got all my degrees in Brazil. And I moved to New York sort of 4.5 years ago to finish my PhD here. I got a fellowship to write a thesis at Columbia University. And I spent 2 years at Columbia University. I finished my PhD. And then I came back as a visiting scholar at the Center for Bioethics. That is a center based in the College of Global Public Health. And I started as a visiting scholar, and then I got a position as a visiting assistant professor, and this is my current position. So what was the other question? I think that is, at least for the first question.
All right. Okay, thank you so much for organizing. My name is Alden. I am an assistant professor in the Department of Public Policy and Management. And I am new. I just started at the college. I joined from September 1st. So previously, I did my PhD at Johns Hopkins in Baltimore. I did my MPH at the University of Tokyo in Japan. I'm from Singapore. I did my undergrad in psychology at the National University of Singapore. And I think my journey to NYU, I mean, very briefly, it's for me, I knew when I was starting my PhD program that I wanted to be in the academia. So I was very much focused on structuring my academic career. And eventually I was on a job market, and NYU seemed like a really great fit in terms of the kind of things I want to do in terms of research. Faculty members were really supportive, and I think really is the fit between what I would like to do and what the college, the university, and the city really have to offer. So here I am. I'm very excited to be here. Thank you.
Firstly, thanks so much for organizing this. I really think, I wish I had something like this when I was a student. I'm Niyati Parekh, and I'm an associate professor in public health nutrition. This is my 12th year at NYU. I've been in the United States 18 years now. My country of origin is India. And I guess the only piece that I haven't answered is my journey to NYU. So I came here for I came to Madison, Wisconsin for a PhD and didn't really know whether I was going to stay in the country or not. I was just going to see how things go at that point. Then I met my husband, stayed, and then applied for a job. I was told that you need to apply for about, on an average, 6 faculty positions to land one. And so NYU was my first application, and I just applied, and I said, I'll see what happens. Too much information, but at the time I was pregnant, I had no idea that I would actually land up here. It was just a practice run. And then I guess I got a call a few months later that I had got the job, and I'm here. So.
My name is Shuzu. You can call me Violet, which is the color of NYU. So I originally from China, and I was born in Shanghai. And then after that, I moved to our inner province, and then I came back to Shanghai for my college degree. And then I was graduated in East China Normal University. And when we say normal, actually it's our school training for teachers. So I went to our middle school. I became a teacher for a while. And then I thought, no, I'm not satisfied with being our middle school teacher. I want to learn something new every day, kind of like my students. They are learning something new every day. So I was thinking, where should I go for a higher degree? And then now he's my husband. My husband came to the States for our job. So he designed computer chips. So I joined him, and then I have no more choice. It's like if I apply for higher degree, I should stay in the United States so we can be together. And also, I don't want to leave California. Then we were living in Silicon Valley. So I have very limited choice. And later, we may talk more about how to apply for higher education and so on. But yeah, it's just like we don't have much choice. So I went to UC Davis for PhD training. I really enjoyed the training over there. I got my degree in quantitative psychology in the Department of Psychology. And then after that, I went to Penn State for a 2-year postdoctoral training. So the life there is very, very different from the life in California. In California, we were so close to everything: good food, ski resort, ocean, mountain, and desert. But in Penn Station, it's like you are close to nothing. But you are so close to smart people and very good projects. I really enjoyed the 2 years there, just for the project I was working on. And then after that, I was on job market, and my center, I was in methodology center. So there's our job opening in NYU. I thought, oh, let me try. I miss the life in big city, and I miss good food. So I got an interview. I took 1-day trip to NYU, and back then it was in College of Dentistry. I went to the lab for the interview in the morning, and in the afternoon I went to Central Park. I smelled the sense of real life. Everything was so alive. So yeah, that's why I moved to the. I accepted the job offer, and so I stayed. I worked in the city since 2012, and in 2015 I joined GPH, and now I'm our. Yeah, I haven't said that. Now I'm a clinical assistant professor in biostats.
Hi, thank you. Thank you for inviting me. Well, I'm Erez Hatna. I'm an associate clinical professor, whatever, in here. It's a long title. Yeah, okay. Clinical associate professor. And I'm international also. Yeah, international, I think it means that I'm not non-American. I think it's all, I like international because non-American is like, but you are not. I'm something, I'm international. So this is nice. And my story is long, I think also. I'm older, so it should be long because I lived more years. But I started in Israel, and actually most of my education is actually Israeli, because I never took any degree outside Israel. So actually not international in my education. So I did a degree in geography and human environment, and I used to work, I still work, on urban modelings. So we did, there was a laboratory in Israel. It was an environmental simulation laboratory, and we did simulations, usually for cities, like movement of people, how did they move, segregation. And I did my PhD in Israel. And in Israel, usually, if you would like to have an academic career, then you are required to have some international experience. In Israel, they don't like if you spend all your time in Israel. Why? I don't know. They have some problem. Maybe they feel it's complicated. But they say, okay, you would like to have a position, first go out. So I said, okay, I would go out. I had no intention of getting out. Like, I was very happy where I was. You know, I'm not a person who likes to travel much. I'm at home, I'm not moving. But okay, so I said, let's go to 1 year to the Netherlands. I found a good job, postdoc position. It was about modeling, land use modeling for the EU project. I liked EU, interesting. I spent there like few years. The year became 2 years, 3 years, 4 years. So I worked at Wageningen University. I did land use modeling and land use projections. It was good experience because I learned to do other type of models. It's always, for a modeler, it's always good to track many type of approaches. After that, after the Netherlands time, I moved to the UK, where I worked at the spatial in CASA, the Center for Spatial Analysis, a very known place. And it was very nice, London, big city, beautiful. And then there was Josh Epstein in Hopkins looked for people, and I applied. I didn't have any intention of coming to the US, but there was an option, so why not, you know? So I landed in Baltimore at I think it was the end of 2012. Stayed Hopkins for a while, for quite a while, and we had a lab there, a center for advanced modeling. And after a while, we liked Baltimore and we liked Hopkins, but you know, it was we looked for something else because we were in the medical school, and medical school has some, you know, there are a lot of doctors there. They are very professional, but they are not exactly scholars in the way we like them to be. So NYU, we had a project with NYU, and something opened, and we said, okay, let's move to New York, and we moved. And I think I moved at 2017, and it was nice, of course, because when I lived in London, it was a big city, beautiful, wonderful. Baltimore, very nice. I liked it very much, but small. So when I come here, I said, oh wow, this is London again. Even better than London. This is London plus, I must say. If London, New York is better. I hope nobody sees me in the UK. UK is also nice. So I'm very happy because it's a nice city and many scholars and many international people. So it's fun being here.
Thank you so much. That was very interesting to hear all your stories. Since I missed the chance to introduce myself, my name is Ira Kim. I'm from South Korea. I'm also in MPH program with concentration in biostatistics. So we'll move on to our next question. What were some of the challenges and benefits you experienced when you started living in the US?
So I think one of the challenges is to adapt yourself to a new culture. Okay, you come with your. I moved here. I developed many things in my career, so I have all my career strategies very settled in myself. So I have to learn many things from the scratch. So I think this is a big challenge. In one side, I think it makes you more adaptable because you have to force yourself to learn something that are very new for you. But on the other hand, I think also it helps you to improve yourself. You develop new skills, new abilities you didn't have before. Okay, so I think this is it's a kind of challenge, but also it's a challenge that comes with a benefit. In the end of the process, you will develop, I think, new abilities. Another kind of challenge is, I think, is to adjust your expectations of what is possible in the place you are. So when you come from another country, your expectations regarding the place you're going usually is unreal, some of the expectations. So you have to adapt what is really possible in the place you are and how you can, with the past experiences you have, get as much as you can in the place you are. Okay. Another challenge is usually, I think you mentioned this in another question, is the language, how you improve. It's an opportunity to improve your English, but also it's a challenge how you communicate with people. Okay. Another benefit is you will become probably more open to international experiences. So when you go to the job market, I think this is a very good benefit because you will be open to, you will see as someone that has international experience, even if you go back to a country or if you go to another country or if you stay in this country. I think this is a sort of benefit regarding the experience of living in a foreign country. Okay.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with what Claudia has said. And I think I would just break it down into two different dimensions. And I think the first will be professional and then the second be personal, because you need to take care of both. And I think usually in a professional setting, especially if you're here for a program, usually the program is kind of like structured in a way and definitely take advantage of the resources your school and program has to offer. So our Office of Student Affairs is doing an amazing job. And it's like the fact that we're having even this panel, you can see that there's a lot of opportunity. So definitely take advantage of that. But on the personal side of things, I think you just need to, I mean, for me at least, I moved to multiple countries over the years. I moved to Japan. I didn't know anyone in Japan. I moved to the US. I didn't know anyone in the US. And I think to me, it takes at least a year to feel that I have a good social network in any city. Now, as a result of that, I've got friends all over the world, but it honestly took time to, it's not just acquaintances, it's really feeling that you have a good group of friends with whom you can really hang out with and friends that care for each other. And I think that takes time. So and it's great that you are in a program that you get to meet a lot of different students. So that's great start for you to start friendships. And I think thinking back, when I came to the US, I was doing my PhD and I had some working experience. So I think when you're doing a PhD, it's different career stage when you're kind of like coming as a master's student, I guess. So there's a slight difference there. And I think it's definitely way easier to make a lot of friends in a master's program compared to a PhD program. I think that was my kind of like notion. So I do think that, there are multiple dimensions to think about that. But I think to me, it takes a period of time to feel like a good social circle going around. So be patient with that. And as a result of that, I've gotten really comfortable with solitude. And there's a difference between solitude and loneliness. And, sometimes I remember when I first came to the US, I arrived in September and it was like Thanksgiving and then it's only 2 months. And I've had friends at school, acquaintances and colleagues at school, but none will be close enough to invite you to their families for Thanksgiving. It was like 2 months. And so I spent Thanksgiving on my own and I was very productive, but at the same time, it didn't feel great because the whole city everyone was doing their own thing. Everyone's like really busy spending time with their family. And it's like, well, no one invited me for Thanksgiving dinner. So you just kind of like do your own thing. So I've just gotten really comfortable with solitude and Thanksgiving's coming up. So, but anyway, so I would just basically mention, think about the professional side of things, yes. But generally speaking, I think the school would have some kind of structure you can take advantage of, but also don't neglect your personal side of things. You need a good social network but be patient with kind of like setting things up for yourself. Yeah.
I'm going to kind of expand on what he said. So many thoughts are coming through my mind. So again, it's professional and personal, and I'll probably talk about my challenges even as a woman, trying to raise a family, being here with zero support. Also the sandwich generation that has to take care of kids here, but family way back home, miles away, trying to balance it all off. I think that's something that takes so many more hours and visits and money and all of that, which probably people in the professional front, you don't really talk about too much and you don't bring it on the table, because eventually you're being sort of looked at for the professional work that you have produced. In my earlier I just want to say, all put together, the US has given me a lot, and I've grown so much as a human being. I've grown so much personally. I've literally worked with people from all over the world, and I'm very adventurous that way. I love travel. I love different cultures. I'm very curious about how people function and how the earth, works and the planet works in different places. So I was really embracing every single experience that I had here, but there were challenges. So maybe I'll just talk a little bit about that and then the positives. So when I first came, I'd never experienced the kind of cold I did in Wisconsin. I'd never seen snow before. I saw some flurries and I got excited, and I wrote back home that it's snowing when people said, this is October, wait till January, right? Like there are heaps. So it was kind of scary to see winter at its peak with darkness at 3:30. All alone. I kind of have to say that I was working on Christmas Day, New Year's. There was nobody, right? And people go home to their families. You're kind of stuck in a place that doesn't have appreciation for other cultures. People would wonder what kind of food I was zapping in the microwave. It had a strong smell. It was very different from being in New York. So it's no surprise that we get attracted to New York as immigrants from another place. Didn't know what side of the road to drive on. The switch was all, up and down, different directions. Like all these really small things where you feel stupid as I was a PhD student, to go and ask such a dumb question to somebody, right? So it just takes a long time to integrate yourself. I'd never seen this much packaged food. There were very different dynamics, power dynamics in the workplace as a student, as a professor, as etc. So those were some of the challenges, but you learn really quickly and you manage. I always felt, I don't know how true this is for all of you, I felt I speak differently, right? My accent is, my English is fine, but my accent is different. And I just kept thinking I have to work super, super hard, because people in Wisconsin didn't recognize that accent, because some of the words we use based on British English were different. I wrote well, but different. And it was a challenge because some of my lab mates were from very small towns that had 2,000 people in North Dakota. They had never seen somebody who's from India. They had never smelled that kind of food. They had no idea where, some of them, and I know this is crazy, where India was even on the globe. They had no idea. And I said, how can you not know? I mean, this is geography. I'm not expecting you to know all the cities. And they said, but it doesn't change the quality of my life. Why would I know? So I really had to break into, the university was fantastic. The quality of science was really unbelievable. I was finally being taught by professors whose textbooks we used in India. I was walking through corridors where there were Nobel laureates. I mean, these were the clear advantages. I was now in circles that I would never have been in India. But it was a very large, I would say, learning curve. It was a very steep learning curve initially. Professionally, my challenge, and I feel a lot more relaxed in New York. I think I feel more comfortable being in my skin. But professionally, I have to say, life has treated me well. I've been very fortunate with colleagues I've met, mentors I've met, students that I've formed such strong bonds with. I've just sort of informally become a mentor to international students who want to know how to navigate visa issues, jobs, how to present yourself, how do you write, because the training is so different. How do you write letters? How do you write applications? Just small things. They'll go and talk to other people, but they'll also want to hear it from my side. And so, it's really been a great journey and a pleasure. I think I've probably covered everything, but all in all, I would do this all over again because, like I said, I did not want to be confined in in a comfort zone. I'm not the comfort zone kind of person. I really like to, expand my horizons. The last thing I do want to say as a woman again, all those years ago, maybe more than 25 years ago, when I was considering higher education, it was not encouraged in the society that I came from. Things have changed dramatically now. So again, it opened up doors for me and opportunities that I would have never ever gotten. So I'm public health nutrition, but the one thing I love nutrition. I've been able to take it and sort of navigate it in a context that is important. But the one thing I regret is the reason why I chose nutrition is because it was a softer science and something that a woman could handle. If I had gone back all those years and been more militant about my choices in my career, I think I would have chosen differently. So again, probably not. I've really enjoyed my journey, but the slant that I was able to give nutrition here in the United States as compared to what I would have done back home is very different, and I'm just happy that I've only gone higher.
What
So
would you have chosen? I'm curious.
I don't know, because those options were not presented to me. I think you need mentorship. You need even commitment to STEM. It comes much earlier in your years. You don't all of a sudden become an engineer 2 days before your admission. And those options were just never offered to me. I think it was a secondary choice to do something with your life, which is very different now. And I came from a big city. I was allowed to hold a glass of wine. I could wear what I wanted. But when it came to higher education, there were limits. So I think breaking those barriers and being here and expressing myself while balancing everything a woman or what I wanted to do, not everyone's trajectory is the same, has been an opportunity I've only gotten in this country. So.
Nyadi already covered almost everything. It's not too much room for me to add. But so like why she chose studying nutrition, why I studied to choose biostats, because I think it's simple and it helps me to avoid some of the challenges. Language is a big challenge. I remember the first year when I was in my PhD program, at least the first semester when I sit in the Brownback seminar, which is a seminar we held weekly to learn the new projects faculty members are working on. It's like I slept almost all the seminars, all the talk in the first semester, because it's so technical and it's so fast-paced, and there are so many new things I don't understand. I don't understand the terminologies the faculties are working on for their specific question. Is so specific. And also in terms of the language, I started to learn English when I was like kind of like grade sixth grade. And we trained so hard on writing, on taking exam, but not in listening. So it's kind of like a lullaby to me the first semester. But I know I should work very hard, and I caught up the second semester. So language was a challenge, and then I thought, and actually I noticed that, and I thought, oh, biostats. Everything is so standard. How many ways can you interpret a regression coefficient? That's what meant. So it's simple. It makes my life much simpler. So that's one thing I really love biostats. And in terms of challenges, there are a lot of challenges to us, life, career, and from many aspects. So to cope with those challenges, I think I can speak of all the international students. We spend so much time and energy to learn new stuff every day, every minute. There are so many things we need to learn, and oftentimes we pay attention to those cultural difference in your specific program, and just everywhere. And I noticed one big difference was in, I think it was for me, maybe it still exists right now. It's the recommendation letter. When I was in college, it's like back in China, I have never heard of something like a recommendation letter. And then when I applied for graduate school in the United States, yes, I contact my professor in China saying, we need this letter to apply for school. So this is me. I have great grade when I was in college. So can you write me a letter? And it's just like I need it in 7 days. I'm catching deadline. But now I understand, especially as our professor, I understand, no, that's way not enough. You need to reserve a big amount of time for your professor to know you. Actually, it's like when you just get into a program, you need to think about it. Who would you like to write the letter for you? You need time to work with that person, let the person to know you, and also, ideally, you work on projects. So in that letter, the professor can address your advantage in many different ways: your personality, your working style, your working ethics, and especially your professional training, your background, and creativity, and so on. So yeah, it took me a long time to learn that experience. So I had some challenge when I asked for the first letter. At the very beginning, I didn't notice this is a thing you need to worry about. And then it took me a while to think about, who should I request this letter? Who can know me that well? And then now I feel more comfortable to go to certain person asking for the letter for my higher education when I apply for fellowship or anything. But yeah, it was a quite challenging learning experience. And I'm so happy to share this experience with all of you, because you will need letters at a different stage of your career path.
Can I add something to the letters? Okay, the way they write letters in in other countries is so-and-so person is in good standing, period. You have to really explain to them what the letter means, how it has to have anecdotes, things like that, because that's all they think of as a letter. But I'll just stop at that. I know we're running out of time.
Sorry, I just wanted to say very briefly, knowing the country that you're in and the kind of letters and your own statement of interest, they are really important, because in the US, generally speaking, people prefer a more quote-unquote bombastic way of saying things. This person led this team of 6 people to do this. And I have got many colleagues in Europe, and they were telling me in Europe, if you do the same for a European institution or professor, they don't buy it. In fact, it backfires because it thinks that this is fake. So be really mindful about where you are applying and what are the different norms. In the US, if you do in the US European style, you're not enough. If you do US style in Europe, you're way too much and being insincere. So really be mindful about that, not just recommendation letters, but also your statement of interest, the way you write your cover letter, the way you kind of like apply for jobs. I think those are really important things to be mindful of. Yeah.
Yes, I will just complement a few things. I recall that when I used to live in Israel, and I have an Israeli CV, which is different than European and different than the American CVs. For example, in Israel, I'm not up to date. I'm more than decades out of Israel. But for example, in Israel, it's customary for a person to write his age, his marital status, and all his personal stuff. While in the US, actually, under federal law, some of these things cannot be asked. So the idea, of course, is to reduce bias against people. So if you have your CV, you can actually you don't have to disclose stuff you don't like to disclose, like marital status, number of kids, pregnancy, no pregnancy. Even gender is still required, I think, even in the US. Not sure, by the way, even gender. So I think the US is much more advanced compared to some countries which have to follow up. So if you're coming from another country, you can actually update yourself a little bit. And even I think only a few years ago, I said, know what? Let's drop my age. You know what? Or let's drop why do they know? You can ask me. I don't care. Even though you can't. So this occurred to me. But while in Israel, how old are you? Exactly, how old are you? So now another thing which maybe to complement is things which actually I cared about a lot when I came to the US and even working in other countries is my immigration status. it was something really, really important because let's say that you're coming to a new country and you like the country. So you are dependent in many cases on your occupation. So if you are a student, you might have a visa for a student visa. If you are working, let's say, even as a, let's say, a postdoc or as a faculty, you might have something like an H-1B visa. And all of these are dependent on you working. You might lose this status if you, for example, get fired or you are going to leave the job. So it was something I was really, really aware of. And so in many cases, it was always thinking a few steps ahead of how to maintain my status. Or if I lose my status, what do I gain? For example, when I left the UK, I was leaving my hard-won status in the UK, but okay, maybe I get something better in the US. So this is something to remember, and also don't forget that your status in the US, I'm not an expert, but might be related from where you came from. So we all want to have equal opportunities, but this is not the case. For example, when I've been in Hopkins, I worked for a few years, and I had an H-1B visa. And then I said, I would all the time renew the H-1B visa, and you can only renew twice. I didn't know that. Okay, what do I do now? And okay, they said, okay, this is a green card option. And the first thing that people ask me about when I would like to ask for a green card were two things. Do you have applications? And then, okay, I did something in the past. And the second, from where are you? And I said, Israel. They said, good. However, I'm not sure, but if I would say India, more complicated. Because for Israeli person, for example, it takes only, if you are established, a few months, and you get a green card. I'm not sure if you're even from India, it's much more, even decades, 10 years. So it's something to remember and plan ahead. Because if you are, for example, for other country, there are ways around it. There are always ways which are legal, established to go around. And everything is so you have to find the right way. And I was not aware of stuff. I was like, I'm coming, I didn't think about it. I was thinking about my work. So think about this, think about if you like to stay here, think about the future, and find the path which is optimal for you.
Thank you so much. So on all of the things we've heard from the panel, it seems that everyone has a really very global perspective. Based on that, I want to ask the next question, which is, what are some of the qualities or characteristics an international student should develop or improve upon to be successful in school or at work? Dr. Passos?
So qualities, so say it again, the qualities?
Qualities that an international student should develop to be successful at work or at school here in the United States. Or anywhere else, actually.
I think that maybe the fact that you are international, you should embrace this as a good quality, because it brings you, I think, you be someone that will develop some flexibility, adaptability, because you need this, as everyone was telling, how they have to do all the effort to learn how to live in a new country. So this, you have to embrace this as a good quality. As not something that is makes you less competitive, but something that makes you more competitive. Be very aware of the place you apply. What are the needs or the things at the place you apply next? What are the qualities that they expect from you, and try to highlight those qualities in your application. I think the fact also that you have to learn a new language makes you able to interact with people from different countries. So you have your maternal language and you learn a new language. Probably you are capable to learn a third language. I did my first international experience was in France. So I speak Portuguese, I speak French, I understand Spanish, and when I moved to the US, I have to improve my English. So I think this is a quality that you should embrace in your your next career, something that will help you to interact with people from different cultures, different perspectives. Okay? And this is awesome.
Yeah, that's great. For me, I think the biggest quality to develop is the fact that you are here probably means that you're already very curious, but I would really embrace that curiosity. So when in a different country or different culture and people are doing certain things the way they are, I will be really curious in terms of why. So why is that you have to do this? Why is that maybe you feel a little bit more? So in Japan, for example, people don't like to stand out. People don't like to give conflicting opinions in a group. You always want to get group consensus. And then I will ask, people like, why are you doing this? And then you get some contextual information. And I think over the years, as you become more aware of the reasons what motivates people, why are people doing things the way that they are doing, it helps you to become really international and global, because after that, when you work for an MNC and say you are work based in New York, but you have colleagues in Australia, in Japan, in Israel, all over, you kind of know why are people doing certain things, and you can better navigate those. So for me, I don't think it's enough to just be aware. You can be aware of what are other people doing, but I think you also need to be curious to know why are people doing, things the way that they are doing, so you can better navigate that. So, when you're going to a meeting, for example, and then people kind of expect this of you, and then you would just say, well, I know that in this particular country you do it this way, and I totally understand the reason, but I think that, it should be done in this way because of my own reasoning. And I think you position yourself as someone that has seen the world and has worked with many different people, that will make you a very valuable asset to any kind of a workplace. Just knowing that you have that repertoire of what are people doing in different cultures, etc., and not just being aware. So I think being curious and knowing what's going on, that to me will be the biggest thing.
Just add a little bit on this. I think also the fact that you're international will make you very good in deal with diversity. And this is a very important value now, not just in global public health, but almost everywhere. People value the fact that we are able to interact with different people. And the fact that you're international, this becomes sort of a natural ability to deal with diversity.
I'd like to answer this again professionally and personally. On the what I think the question is what skills or characteristics or whatever you should hone. On the personal front, I think social networks. Okay, what I have seen the tendency of most students is, and again I'm just speaking as an example, India, right? They'll get picked up on day one by an Indian student association, hang out only with them, cook with them, room with them, stay with them, and really forget to open their eyes to the world outside. This happens in other communities and cultures too, but I'm just using that as an example. That really hinders your ability to get integrated right away. I'm not saying you don't do that. You want to feel at home, you want to celebrate holidays, but that should not be your only world. So that kind of is something I can see through the eyes of students who do that right away. So social networks, right? Try to, expand your friendships, your networks, your professional connections in wherever you can. I've done that, certainly. And just to add to what they said, I've taken every opportunity I can to travel and it's actually positioned me in a very unique way, even right here at NYU. I just came back 2 days ago from... Now that was the 42nd country that I visited, which I'm really excited about to be around the block. But it makes me unique even at NYU because we teach global courses. We have global research programs. And not everyone, a lot of people maybe in global public health, I would say a decent proportion of staff and faculty are comfortable with travel, but really not everyone. I think I'm able to sort of adapt really quickly and teach and sort of have the context of all these countries. So that if it's something, it's not for everybody, but if it's something that you feel you can adapt to because you're already global, you've lived in other countries, you know the ways of another world, I think that could be an advantage. On the professional front, I cannot emphasize enough, it's the writing that really, really, really you have to pay attention to. It's the flow, it's the tone, it's the way you present, all of that. So only because I think we are taught in a very different way, and now you have to adjust to a target audience. And I know it sounds really crazy to say write for your audience, but I think most people are writing from what their mind is thinking and forgetting what it looks like for the reader. And so I think professionally, no one really told me this. I thought I was a scientist. I really needed to know my biology and my, the science. But no one really told me how much of my career rides on writing. So I think professionally, I would just encourage you to pay attention to that as you go through the program and the rest of your career. Oh, and I really wanted to add one more challenge. None of my graduate work from India was counted. I had to kind of redo everything. And that's fine too. Initially, I grumbled a lot about time and, like, what the heck? And, I was such a good student there and all that. But it taught me so many things that, because you're learning in a different context. So again, take every opportunity while you're a student to grab those, because, a food policy course in India is very different from here because it's two different worlds. So that's, again, what I would add professionally.
Just based on so many great things, there's one thing I want to add on is we really need to pursue our goal with great perseverance. Never give up. There are so many things you feel it's a torture, but eventually it will be good for your life. Professionally and for also personally. I remember one thing, it really made me feel I needed that perseverance. The first time I applied for Social Security number, which is a very simple thing. To do that, for an international student, you really need the I-94, which is the number you get when you enter the United States. I went to INS several times, many times. I can't remember how many, but I do remember each time I went there, the sky was still dark because you really need to arrive early so that you can avoid the time waiting in that very long line, and then you will be able to see the officer. But what's the problem with my Social Security number? Okay, it took a long while to figure it out. My I-94 had a problem. It's not on the document I entered to the United States, but someone I have no idea in which department and why. That person, when he entered my I-94 to the system, he forgot the last digit. And no one checked that number. And eventually, the international scholar assistant in my university figured it out. And she called me that the problem was solved mysteriously. I have no idea. But it took a long time, and it was very stressful. And you really need that number to move on to other things. So you have nowhere to complain, but you just do it again, wait in line, wait for someone to process your document. And I believe you all have similar experience, like apply for a driver's license. If you forgot to bring your I-20, or if there's some miscommunication in terms of what are the required documents, you will wait in the line again. You will spend a whole day, just go there and try to figure out what's going on. And there are many other things, like when you are in school, maybe for your thesis topic and many other things. I remember when I entered my PhD program, the program admitted 30 students. But when we graduated, just 16 got their doctoral degree. Many give up for different reasons. One, financial reasons. Many students cannot get sponsored for 5 years. For international students, it's super stressful. I came from China. My parents have no savings for my PhD training. I need to figure out on my own, how can I pay for my tuition? How can I stay? I cannot give up after 2 or 3 years. I need to figure out where to find the money. Fortunately, it didn't happen to me, but it happened to my best friend. She was not able to find her support at the second year. She struggled a lot and she quit. She didn't get her doctoral degree, which is a shame. And also another challenge came from the time you prepare for the written test for your it's a long preparation. You wonder why I need to read so many literature and spend so many time just working on a computer and answer those questions. Why they are so important to me? And oftentimes you doubt, can I pass it? So that's another test. Should I stick on or what? And then looking for a job. Oh, okay, other thing. Fellowship. International student has much less chance to apply for fellowship. Many of my colleagues right now, they had a T32 in their doctoral training. We have no chance. Yeah. We don't have that opportunity. And that is a great thing put on your CV when you apply for position, for a job. It's kind of like a green flag to bring you to the next step. We don't have that opportunity. And many internships require our green card so should we give up? Or should we just send out more application? And very realistically, yes, when you apply for a job, the same situation.
I just want to add the amount of time that we spend doing paperwork, OPT extension, H1, green card. It's just binders and binders and binders of paperwork that you have to keep carefully. So keep that in mind, but that shouldn't deter you. It's just paperwork. Yes. You do not need to really hire lawyers. I'll even tell you that because you still have to go through all that work to give it to a lawyer. So you might as well it's very easy and mechanized now. Just so you know. And to piggyback on her point, I think international students are off to a great start and they really plummet in terms of career trajectories because of visa issues, because of how much money it costs, because of employers trying to take the path of least resistance, because why would they go through the whole visa process for someone when they also have equivalent US person? So I think that at least in my role here as a professor, I really try to, you guys are off to a great start and then something can happen. So I really try to push forward because I think this is going to be the game changer for you. Getting that first job, forget about the third job right now. So first get your first job, right? So it's just a lot of time and energy and much fewer opportunities if certain jobs have US citizenship requirements. And we've all faced that, but the good news is that somehow there's so many immigrants here anyway, there's got to be a way out, and that's what you should keep your eyes on.
Yeah, and think positively, think it as our learning experience. And in the past years, I often have students come to my office and telling me what's the outcome of their job hunting. And I always encourage them that it's kind of like our process of looking for Mr. or Mr. Right. You don't need many offers. You just need one. Yeah.
I want to talk to them.
Yes, I just am going to expand on it a little bit. I felt, at least during my journey, even outside the US, is that because you have less options, because some jobs are close to you, you need to be a little bit better on average. You need to, because again, some jobs are close to you. Of course, not many, by the way, in the US. But even if they're open to you, you might be, the employee might be required to give you to ask for a visa, so there's some procedure here. So, and even if he's willing to do so, sometimes there is some kind of procedures which have to compare you to other people and show that there's no other American who can do the same job. There's always way around it. And it's always going to be okay. But like in some cases, like I recall when I was in the Netherlands and I wanted to go to the UK for the first time, and there was a job and they were interested. However, they didn't want to ask for a visa just because they want to save a few bucks. It's completely okay. So I couldn't take the job because they closed it to outside people. And even recently, there was a nice, excellent person, a postdoc. He's already in the US, and we would like to want to sponsor him for an NYU postdoc position. NYU sponsors actually postdocs. I forgot the name of this program. However, we found out quite early that only people with status can do it. So even if he's already in the US and doesn't have a green card or a citizenship, he cannot he cannot even apply. So it's a pity. But he's now doing okay because he found something else. But still, he had to look a little bit harder to find the option. So it's not impossible. It's possible, but still, it requires a little bit more work. Now, when you come to the US or any other countries, I think the first thing is to be open to other cultures. You know, like try to understand what is going on around you. Every culture has its own way of speaking, its own way of sensitivities, and we have to respect them. And it's very hard. Sometimes it's very hard to read them. People from different places have, in Israel, for example, the language is quite direct. Hebrew is not a very polite language. So in Hebrew, you can say, come here, or something. It's okay, it's polite. In English, would you mind coming here for a second? It's different. So if you have any issues in your language, try to convert. By the way, you can speak Hebrew nicely, but you know, in Israel, we like to be strong or something. I don't know what the problem is. Also in the UK and in the Netherlands, for example, they are quite direct also. So you have to, so they can be direct with you also. So I came from Israel. Okay. We're all direct. And I see sometimes, even today when I a little more experienced, that some students don't find the right position. Some of them might be too direct or even too personal. Others might even too respectful. So don't respect your professors too much. They are wrong 10% of the time, and if they say something weird, tell them. I don't think it's true. It's like the Israeli way or Dutch way, I think. Like, I think 1 + 1 = 2? No way. Excellent. There's a discussion now. I should prove that 1 + 1 = 2. However, in other cases, I saw that some students for some countries tend to respect authority too much. Maybe not in here, but. And don't respect authority. Authority, why am I smart? Because I'm a professor or something? No, I'm just stupid as you. So you have to tell me. And why is important? Because if, for example, you're doing a thesis and your advisor tells you something, you have to respect, you have to listen, you have to internalize. However, he might be wrong, she might be wrong. So don't let your ideas be cramped by the professor, because he's so respectable, he sits, he has a suit and tie, he's probably smart, you know. So, and also, so the trick is to find a balance between these two things, and it's not always easy, you know. Like me too, by the way. When I was younger, when maybe my preceptor or someone else would tell me this is bad, it's a bad idea, I would say okay, next thing, even without saying, you know what. Maybe it's a good idea, and she doesn't like it. It's also possible. But at the same time, if someone tells you something which makes sense, don't try to push too much. So when you write, for example, in the US, when you write your professor, there are standards here. They are different in different places. Usually in the US or even in other countries, when you are undergraduate or graduate, usually it's not customary to use the first name of your professor in emails, by the way. You can use his last name. Dear Professor Hatna, even Mr. Hatna, it's completely okay. Hi, Erez is cool. I like it, by the way. But because for me, Erez there. But some people would not like it. It has to be respectful. Some Americans like the doctor, because if I'm doctor, so I'm smart, so call me doctor or something. So we have to use this thing, and also try to write in a polite way. Even if you are insisting on something, there is a nice way to insist, you know. I would greatly appreciate if you consider to give me a good grade or something. So don't give me a good grade. So a few of you do it, but we have to be careful about language, make it, because every place is different. It's all arbitrary, you know. It's arbitrary. Another thing to remember is every country, they have their own sensitivities. And you don't like to look bad. And I'm making this mistake sometimes myself, by the way. Yeah, you know, like, because some certain words in English are not really used, or you have to be careful about them. or certain history, something about the history of the place. You know, they're very sensitive because, you know, when you're coming from a different country and you don't know what you're seeing, you know, so some different ethnic groups have different sensitivities. So know the history, understand your peers, listen, talk to people outside your ethnic group. This way you can understand the stories, understand the sensitivities. In the US, by the way, like many countries, there's a lot of sensitivities. Israel has many sensitivities, countries with difficult histories, you know. So let's respect them and learn from them. And also, I think when you're coming to a new country, especially if you come from a majority. I come from Israel. I was people considered Jewish Israeli. They call me Jewish because I'm not a religious, but I came to the Netherlands. I was a minority. I came to UK, I was a minority. Here, I'm not a minority in New York because everybody are minorities. I don't know what we are. What is a New Yorker? It's everything. But still, it's good to be a minority. If you're a minority, you're going to embrace diversity. So if you're a minority now, you have to say, thank you for being a minority. Now I can understand people. Okay, the end of the lecture.
Can I add one last thing? So the question again was professionally, right? What I noticed with students, even as a professor and when I was a student, is that what is considered things like plagiarism and stuff in different countries is different here. So be very careful because you may not mean it, but the point is you've done it. And sometimes you just didn't know better because sometimes you work more communally, but it's not really how an assignment is supposed to be done. So be very clear on those things. I've also given a knock on some of the students' knuckles when they say, oh, I just need an OPT and can you just write this letter and say that I work for you 20 hours? No, never do anything incorrectly. You should always never do anything wrong. It's always a record on your visa and things like that. And it's just wrong. So those things are, again, things you have to negotiate in the professional world, I want to say. And I know I had one more point, but I've sort of forgotten right now. But it's just things that you have to navigate in the new culture.